Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. Yesterday, the Government finally found the missing documents in their ferry fiasco. For a brief moment, it looked like islanders and taxpayers here in Scotland might finally get the answers they deserve. But they didn't. For weeks, Nicola Sturgeon has stood in this chamber and told MSPs that Derek MacKay signed off the vital contract for Ferguson Marine to build replacement ferries. But Operation Blame Derek MacKay has a fatal flaw. This new document, previously hidden from the public, reveals that the person who signed this deal at the final stage was the Deputy First Minister. Civil servants escalated this to John Swinney. They waited for the Deputy First Minister to give the green light. Honest John's hands are all over this dodgy deal. First Minister, how do you explain blaming Derek MacKay when your own documents confirm that John Swinney signed off this deal?
First Minister. I think all that Douglas Ross is displaying right now is his own utter desperation, which perhaps is not surprising given events since we last all gathered here for First Minister's questions in the Chamber. Let me just read from the emails that were published yesterday. The important one, and remember, and people who have listened to this will remember that I said that I thought if this email could be found, then what it would be is a one-line email saying that the Minister was content with the proposal. So here's the Minister from Derek MacKay's. Here's the email from Derek MacKay's office. The Minister is content with the proposals and would like it to be moved on as quickly as possible. That was the decision to proceed with the contract. And then the email from the official who had briefed the Deputy First Minister. The Deputy First Minister now understands that Mr MacKay has cleared the proposal. So it seems pretty obvious to anybody who is looking at this. The Deputy First Minister did not take the decision. He wasn't even copied in to the advice of the 8th of October that was the basis of that decision. He was simply briefed on the decision after it was taken, not even at his request, but on the initiative of an official. It is not unusual, really not unusual, for finance secretaries to be briefed on all sorts of decisions that involve the spending of money. It does not mean that the Finance Secretary has actually taken the decision. Now, I would say, Presiding Officer, that Douglas Ross should know that's how government works. But of course, Douglas Ross doesn't know how government works. And on recent evidence, Douglas Ross is unlikely to ever know how government works. Douglas Ross.
It seems from that answer that the First Minister doesn't know how emails work, because it's very clear in here how officials escalated it to John Swinney, waiting for his green light. And in these emails, civil servants state that the Deputy First Minister confirmed, and this is a quote from these emails from First Minister, the absence of banana skins. John Swinney couldn't find a single banana skin when they were absolutely littered around him. There were more banana skins in this project than there are in the monkey house at Edinburgh Zoo. And now, the latest incompetence from this SNP government. They published a series of responses to the requests for more information that were heavily redacted, lines blacked out. Except they've done such a poor job at redacting the documents, if you copy and paste them into Microsoft Word, the information is revealed. In one section of the redacted document, it warns of a risk of legal challenge for this contract. It states, and I quote, "The impact of a successful legal challenge could be high. In the worst case, the contract could be declared ineffective." In other words, going ahead with this contract was such a bad idea, it could open up the government to even more losses than they've already experienced. First Minister, it's clear to everyone now why you and your government wanted that redacted, but it's now in the public domain. So tell us, we all knew this was a bad deal. Was it also unlawful?
First Minister. Douglas Ross has, no doubt unwittingly, just holed his own arguments below the waterline, pardon the pun. Two matters here. Firstly, on the Deputy First Minister not seeing any problems with the award of the contract. That's because the Deputy First Minister had not been copied into the paperwork that formed the basis for the decision. So the Deputy First Minister couldn't have been the person taking the decision because he wasn't copied into the 8th of October paperwork. He wasn't the decision taker. As the email makes clear, he was briefed on the decision after the Transport Minister had taken the decision. And secondly, on the issues of legal challenge, ministers are briefed on many issues that decisions could be subject to legal challenge. On some occasions, the minority of occasions, that comes to pass. On most occasions, that doesn't. And these are issues that ministers have to weigh up in reaching decisions. But where I think Douglas Ross undermines his own case here is that in this, it didn't come to pass, of course, that the contract was legally challenged. So ministers weigh up all of these issues and they come to decisions. And what is now beyond any doubt whatsoever, and I suspect this is what is really annoying Douglas Ross, is that the minister who took that decision was Derek MacKay, and that is now clear from the email chain.
Douglas Ross.
That is not clear, First Minister. In fact, the exact opposite is clear. And maybe the stony silence from John Swinney today, which is unusual in these exchanges, is telling in itself. But there we have it. There we have it, Presiding Officer. The SNP's Secret Scotland foiled by copy and paste. You can't even redact documents properly. It's little worry these ferries aren't on time and on budget. So CMAL warned you about the risks. We now know your own legal advice was this was high risk, but you went ahead anyway, and taxpayers and islanders are paying the price for your failures. These new emails state John Swinney understands the background and the way is clear to award. If he doesn't clear the deal, it doesn't go ahead. That's what these emails say. He went ahead knowing, as we've just revealed, that it could open the government to legal challenge. So we now know all of this, but what we still don't know is why the Deputy First Minister ignored all those banana skins. The most crucial document in this affair is still missing, the one that explains why John Swinney charged ahead against expert advice. Last night, Audit Scotland said this: there remains insufficient documentary evidence to explain why the decision was made to proceed with the contract, given the significant risks and concerns raised by CMAL. So will the First Minister tell us, why did John Swinney go ahead with this deal against the advice of experts when he knew that this contract was so bad it could be challenged in court and rendered ineffective?
First Minister.
Well, 3 points, Presiding Officer. Firstly, in government, finance secretaries are very often briefed on decisions that involve the spending of money. In this case, of course, the budget had already been approved by John Swinney. Secondly, it's interesting because he has to do this to sustain the case he's trying to make here. Douglas Ross has selectively quoted from the email from the official who did brief John Swinney. So let me read the bits that Douglas Ross read out. The email starts, just finished my call with the Deputy First Minister, who of course was Finance Secretary at the time. Douglas Ross read out these bits. He now understands the background and the way is clear to award. Let me read out the bit that Douglas Ross didn't read out. So after he now understands the background, it goes on to say, and that Mr Mackay has cleared the proposal. Now, had Douglas Ross read out that bit, of course, his entire argument here would have fallen to pieces. So it is a bit misleading, I think, Presiding Officer. And lastly, Members, I'm not sure, Presiding Officer, Douglas Ross should be speaking to any other leader right now about their backbenchers. I suspect he might have issues rather closer to home. Finally, Presiding Officer, the reasons for the decision are clear. The basis for the decision, in particular the mitigations that had been put in place to address the risk of no refund, full refund guarantee, are set out in the paperwork of the 8th of October. Now, without the email that we now have from Derek MacKay, we could have assumed that that was the case, but I accept we didn't know that for sure. But now that we have that email, it is clear that the decision that was taken on the basis of all of the information and the mitigation set out in the paperwork of 8th of October 2015. That is paperwork that wasn't copied to John Swinney, that went to Derek MacKay as Transport Minister, and Derek MacKay took the decision. That is clear to anybody who reads the emails that are now published.
Douglas Ross.
What is clear to anybody and everybody from these emails is the Junior Transport Minister agreed something, and it was escalated to the Deputy First Minister for the green light, for approval, so they can put in this email the way is clear to award. That was from the Deputy First Minister. He had to sign it off. But the document that's still missing is the crucial one, the one that explains why John Swinney did this. Now, the First Minister has forgotten, her memory's gone blank again. But the good news is the man with all of the answers is literally sitting right next to her. If the First Minister won't tell us all of the details, let's hear from the Deputy First Minister. Let's hear why he chose to ignore expert advice. Let's hear why he forged ahead with a deal that has cost taxpayers £250 million. And, Presiding Officer, let's hear why John Swinney decided to give the green light to a deal that opens this government up to potential legal action. The stench of cover-up and corruption is running through this whole sorry affair. If the First Minister won't come clean, if she won't come clean, let's get John Swinney on the stand. Will the First Minister agree to the Deputy First Minister appearing? Will the First Minister agree to the Deputy First Minister appearing before Parliament today to give a statement in this chamber today to face scrutiny and tell the public what on earth he was thinking?
First Minister.
It's not my job to help out desperate Douglas Ross, frankly, Presiding Officer. The Deputy First Minister on this issue was briefed as Finance Secretary because a decision had been taken by the Transport Minister that involved the spending of money. That's why it's finance officials a finance official that briefed him. I would repeat again, Presiding Officer, that Douglas Ross has only been able to sustain, and I don't think he's done it particularly well, his argument today by selectively quoting from an email, by missing out the crucial words that show, that underline what is already clear in the email from Derek MacKay's office, that Derek MacKay took the decision. And finally, I don't know if Douglas Ross has actually bothered to read all of the paperwork on this. I suspect from his questions the answer to that is no. But the paperwork that shows why the decision was taken has always been there. It is the paperwork of the 8th of October 2015. And what we now know is that Derek MacKay took the decision on the basis of the advice set out there. That is the facts. I'm sorry if Douglas Ross cannot accept those facts. I'm sorry if he is too desperate to do so. But that, I'm afraid, is his problem.